Today, we're diving into something pretty wild, an idea that shows how even the tiniest actions can set off massive, world-changing waves. Ready? Let's get into it.
I mean, it sounds kind of crazy, doesn't it? A single piece of trash changing the future? You'd think, no way. But what if I told you it's not a joke? It's actually a mind-bending idea called the butterfly effect.
Okay, to really get what this is all about, let's break it down with a simple story. It's a perfect way to see how one tiny, little thing can start this totally unexpected chain reaction.
So picture this. It's a normal Monday. The city's alive, kids are off to school, just another day where everything seems to be on track. And here's where our first tiny change happens. Over in Bangalore, a student named Priya wakes up with a bit of a fever. Her mom does what any mom would do, tells her to stay home. I mean, this happens all the time, right? Totally normal, nothing to see here.
But because Priya's not there, her seat in class is empty. This means her usual lab partner, Rohan, has to sit somewhere else. He ends up next to Samir, a kid he doesn't really know. Just a simple switch in who sits where.
So, as they're working on their assignment, Rohan and Samir start chatting. And what do you know? They find out they're both completely obsessed with building model rockets. It's this instant connection, a spark that, let's be honest, would never have happened if Priya had come to school that day. And that little spark, it just grows. They decide to team up for the science fair. Their project is a huge hit, and they win. Fast forward a few years, and their partnership turns into this incredible robotics company. The tech they develop is so groundbreaking, it actually inspires a whole new program at ISRO. And there you have it. Priya getting a fever, a super small, insignificant event, ends up leading to something massive. That's the idea in action.
So yeah, that whole story, that's the butterfly effect in a nutshell. The basic idea is that these tiny, seemingly random actions can have these enormous, totally unpredictable effects. But where did this whole concept even come from? It's a pretty cool story.
All right, let's go back to the beginning. You might think this was some big eureka moment. But nope, it was actually discovered because of a tiny accidental mistake made by a scientist studying the weather. The year is 1961. There's this meteorologist, Edward Lorenz, and he's using one of those huge early computers to try and predict the weather. He's feeding it all this data, temperature, wind speed, to see how weather systems might develop.
So, he's running this big simulation and decides he wants to take a closer look at a part of it. To do that, he just has to re-enter one of the numbers from his printout. Now, these old computers were super precise. The number he was working with was 0.506127. But here's the thing. To save a bit of time, I guess he was in a hurry, he didn't type in all 6 decimal places. He just rounded off to 0.506. I mean, look at that difference. It's almost nothing. It's so small you'd think it wouldn't matter at all, right?
Well, he was wrong. Lorenz left to go grab a cup of coffee, and when he came back, he was completely floored. The weather forecast unfolding on his screen looked nothing like the original. That tiny change, that little rounding error, had sent the entire simulation in a completely different direction. Later on, when he was trying to explain this bizarre discovery, Lorenz asked this question that has now become famous. He wondered if the flap of a butterfly's wings in Brazil could set off a tornado in Texas. And that's where the name comes from. It's such a perfect image, isn't it? This tiny little flutter of air could, domino after domino, build up into a massive storm thousands of miles away.
And the really important thing to get here is that Lorenz's accidental discovery wasn't just about the weather. It actually became one of the key ideas behind something called chaos theory. That's the whole field of science that studies these super complex systems where the tiniest little tweak at the beginning can lead to completely bonkers, unpredictable results down the line.
Okay, but this isn't just some abstract idea for scientists in a lab. The butterfly effect happens out here, in the real world, and sometimes the consequences are absolutely enormous.
Let's take one of the biggest examples from history. Back in June of 1914, the Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated. Now, on its own, that's just one terrible political event. But it was the spark that lit the fuse. See, Europe was a mess of complicated treaties and alliances at the time, so that one event started a catastrophic domino effect. Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia, which then pulled in Russia, then Germany, France, and Britain, and before anyone knew it, you had World War I, a war that literally changed the map of the world, all starting from a single moment.
So we've seen it in a science lab, and we've seen it start a world war. This is a seriously powerful force. But let's bring it back home. What does all this mean for you and me?
in our daily lives.
Now, the point of all this isn't to make you scared to do anything, like you're constantly worried about starting a tornado. We can't predict what's going to happen, but we can understand that our actions, no matter how small they seem, don't just happen in a vacuum. They have an impact. They send ripples out into the world.
And that's really why this matters so much. It's a reminder that the small things we do are way more powerful than we think. A simple act of kindness, helping out a friend, or hey, even just properly throwing away that candy wrapper we talked about at the start. It could be the first step in a really positive chain reaction. It just pushes us to be a little more aware, a little more mindful of the choices we make every day, because yeah, they really do matter.
So as you go on with your day, maybe just keep this in the back of your mind. You can't control the final outcome, the tornado way off in the distance. But you can control your own actions, your own little flap of the wings. So the real question is, what kind of ripple are you going to start today?